Okay, now back inside. Time to take a closer look at the technical stuff, at my build and all the components. First, let's put this thing on a scale and see how much it weighs. Now it's 154 grams roughly. That means if I add this 850 milliamp hour 4S R-line battery, which is pretty heavy, I'm above the magic 250 gram all-up weight, unfortunately. But I mean, honestly, it wouldn't be too hard to get this below 250 just by using a slightly lighter battery and maybe shaving off a few grams of the build. I'm still using an XT60 and a pretty big capacitor simply because I had XT60s on my batteries and I wasn't very motivated to solder XT30s on all of them. Now, I already talked about this frame and the whole construction of it, so I'm not going to go into any more details on this because I already have a video, but one thing that is new that I haven't talked about or shown in detail is this canopy. This is a completely new design, and I did this despite already having one that would have worked in theory. This is my 2.3 gram canopy design, which works great for toothpicks up to 100 grams all-up weight. But now we're not talking about 100 grams anymore. We are talking about 260, 250, which means if I crash on this canopy, it will probably be compressed because there is just way more energy behind those crashes, which means probably my FPV camera will break. If I'm unlucky, it will be smashed into the electronics and break my board. So clearly, to make this work on 5-inch, I needed a new canopy. And this is why I went for this design. This is 5.5 grams, so it's 3 grams heavier, which in my opinion is okay. And I took a pretty different design approach here. Now this one here, like most canopies, is pretty much just a shell when you print it. So it's very, very thin. It's printed at 100% infill. And this one takes a different approach. Now, it's got this pretty massive arc here, and it's printed at 40% infill, which means this isn't massive TPU. There's air inside, there's sort of air cavities, which makes it light and absorb shocks very well at the same time. So this is sort of like a mattress in terms of structure. It's partly hollow inside. These very massive arcs here that protect the camera, as well as this little lip here on top, giving some extra protection for my Foxeer Predator Nano I have inside. Another feature that I designed to protect the camera, and I hope this is in focus, is this kind of horseshoe shaped cutout here. Now, this is not there to look pretty. This has a very specific purpose because it decouples the point where the camera is mounted from the rest of the canopy. So these little M2 screws that hold the cam are only linked with the rest of the canopy by this little piece of TPU here. So the canopy can, if you get an impact, it can flex without transferring. As you can see, I can flex this and it doesn't transfer any force on the mount of the camera. So in a crash, you have less of a risk of breaking the small threads inside this cam here and ripping out these screws. That's why I have this horseshoe shaped cutout here. Again, I have a sort of fin that really stiffens the whole construction. This version here fits the micro Axi, which is a really impressive antenna for its size. I have a really solid FPV feed with that one, combined with the Ishi Nano 400 milliwatt VTX. The whole combo weighs around 2 or 3 grams VTX plus antenna, and it's really great. Now, I have used 5 or 6 Ishi Nano VTXs and none of them had any issues so far whatsoever. But some people reported that there are some Ishi Nano VTXs where the smart audio doesn't work. I don't know, maybe there was just a bad batch or something, but mine were fine so far, all of them. So that's the new canopy design, 5.5 grams, way more robust than the old one, and specifically for heavier toothpick setups. The rest of the electronics, as I already mentioned, Foxier, Predator, Nano Cam, and of course the 20 amp Beta FPV board. Now I'm pretty impressed with this one because it held up through the abuse this setup puts it through without any issue. So the 20 amp rating clearly isn't bullshit. It really delivers those amp without any issues. This is pretty impressive in my opinion that the board handles this setup. Now, the motors I used, by the way, my receiver is an XM Plus, pretty classic FrSky receiver. I didn't see any need to put crossfire on this one simply because I won't fly very far away and the range of the FrSky XM Plus is actually totally fine for this build here. Now, most interesting thing are maybe these motors here. These are the Emax RS1606 3300 kV, and unfortunately the kV are just a bit too high. I think something around 2800 to 2900 would be great, because this sort of limits the throttle resolution, because the upper 30% of the throttle are kind of useless on both these tri-blade props and also these horrible Jamfan 5030 props. It just limits the throttle resolution, so I could use a throttle limit to kind of get this back on track, but lower kV would just be better and more efficient. But honestly, I was kind of surprised how well they managed this 5-inch prop. Yes, this setup is kind of floaty, but it's not as bad as I feared. They really have apparently enough torque to spin this prop in an appropriate way. I think 2204s could be slightly better. I mean, I have a Lite 5-inch build with 2204s, and I have to say, it's not that much of a difference. And I think the overall issue is maybe not that the stator here doesn't develop enough torque to manage the prop, but rather that this is a very light setup and there just isn't much load on these blades, so they don't have to spin very fast, or they just don't spin very fast at, let's say, the usual speed you are flying around, or especially at slower speeds, the RPM just gets pretty low. And I think this introduces this sort of floatiness. Not only the fact that this is a small stator that just can't manage the prop as well as a 2207, for example, that just weighs twice as much. On the other hand, a 2204 also would add some weight at the same time, then probably having slightly better prop management. But I think after trying this, I think the difference will probably not be huge, and it's absolutely okay on these 1606 motors. So I might as well just leave it at that and have a chance to be below 250 grams in that case by maybe using a slightly lighter battery. So I might just see if I can find motors in that size with lower kV. I'm not sure that exists. I mean, another motor that might be really interesting is the Xnova 1804, but that also only comes in sort of 3100 kV, if I remember correctly. So there isn't really, as far as I know, a motor around 15 grams with kV that is low enough. If you know of one, please just post a comment and let me know. But I mean, so far the performance really is okay on those. Could be way worse. And I think no matter what I do, if I would probably have to put some 2207s on there and make it really heavy to make it feel as locked as a 5-inch that is between 250 grams dry and 300 grams dry. And that would make me lose all the advantages this super light setup has in terms of efficiency and flight times. Alright guys, that's it for now. I will do some more testing and keep you updated on this. So far, I hope you found this interesting and useful, and of course, please don't forget to like and subscribe.